Today I have with me Shazzie. Now, you have an interesting career today. It all started with a blog where you wrote about your life transformation to becoming raw. Then you became the author of Detox Delights, owner of Detox Your World, family business, is my understanding, author of Naked Chocolate with David Wolfe, a massive name in the raw and optimal natural health world, Detox Your World, Raw Britannia, were other books you've written. You've got apps, and I see you steadily releasing, with a new one out this week, apparently about you being more sexy than ever, I noticed. And now you've got your own TV show, so it's my absolute pleasure to have you on Food for Thought.
Hey, hello.
So where do I start? So tell my audience first about your journey to becoming raw yourself and why you did it.
Okay, so I'm from up north, and like our treat of the food was something like bread and dripping. And if you don't know what dripping is, it's that the juice, the fat that comes out of beef when it's being cooked. And so every Sunday when my mum made a joint of beef, our treat would be to have like a huge doorstop of white bread with the dripping. And well, you can imagine that my body got slightly clogged up having a diet like that. Those would be my formative years and all. And so over time, I never felt very well. I felt like a bit of a runt actually. And I just kind of wondered if this was my destiny. So as well as not feeling very well, I also had sort of suicidal depression tendencies, which obviously I wasn't very good at. And then I also started to put weight on in my mid-20s. And, you know, one of my friends said to me, "Oh, you've got cider thighs," because I'd started drinking at the tender age of 25, being a bit of a recluse beforehand. So I turned vegan when I was I was veggie when I was 16, vegan when I was 18, because I didn't want anything to do with, like, you know, the whole battery farming issues, because there wasn't really anything like free-range organic meat and eggs and milk around at that time, unless you actually knew a farmer. And then I went raw when I was 30 because I just felt so super deficient. I mean, I don't think it was from eating a lot of soya, although I'm sure that didn't help. But I think actually it was the fact that I wasn't eating food in the state that it was actually grown. I was eating it after it had been processed, and my body didn't know what to do. Poor deficient body didn't know what to do. And I think most people actually kind of feel okay till they're about 35, and that's when their own particular enzyme stores start to go. But because I was a bit of a runt anyway, I felt it a lot sooner. But even though I felt really bad, it was obviously the biggest blessing in the world for me, because it just launched my whole divine, beautiful Dharma career.
So what has that transition been like through the journey to becoming raw all the time?
What was the transition to going raw like?
Yeah, through the whole journey of it.
Well, that's been about, 12 years or something now. And it's kind of been interlinked with my life and my career and everything. So I don't feel like there's a separation between anything I do now. And I think that that's actually really important for people to kind of pick up on, is that when they really get passionate about something, and when they really start to fully resonate with what the universe is desperately trying to offer them as a gift, when they accept that gift and unwrap it, then it becomes their whole life and it becomes everything that they are. And so I feel like I've been kind of I feel like I'm a messenger, for sure. I don't preach at all, but I feel like I'm a messenger in just generally in this world of, you know, giving out very beautiful, loving information, and that makes me feel amazing. I just love what I do. I really absolutely love it, and I feel great because the message is so strong for my own body and so good for my own body and other people I know that have done it. So I know it's real. I know it's not just a marketing ploy to get people to eat more superfoods.
Yeah. So do you ever think you'll stop that journey in reality?
Well, I have tried sometimes. I always used to say I'd retire at the age of 40, and then I did sort of try not to work at the age of 40. But I still had a business. Well, 2 businesses. It wasn't that easy. But no, I don't really work that much. I probably work about 10 hours a week at the most. Recently it's been about 5 or less. So even though won't stop the journey. I integrate it in whatever else is going on in my life. And I'm a single mum. So, one of my biggest things to do is look after my child. And one of my other biggest things to do is hang out with my friends. And so it's not about, it's not that male-driven energy where you're just going, yeah, I've got all these goals and it's constantly there and I'm always working and this is my mission and I'm on my mission and nothing's going to stop me. I don't feel like that at all. I just happily go about putting things out, and, I'm quite good at delegating and getting other people to do stuff as well, where I'm not very good. So it's nice, it's integrated.
So in effect, it's almost like the Tim Ferriss 4-hour work week that you've got going now.
Yeah, well, I used to always say I don't agree with that, but because if you're a highly creative being, you can't get all your creativity done in 4 hours. But actually, I'm starting to.
Yeah.
I'm really starting to. So, yeah, good job.
I've had a really interesting experience with working with Tom Evans and his product called Bending Time, and it's very much about when you get totally focused and totally into what you're doing, it actually removes the time barriers and you can get so much done in that period of time. It's fascinating. And I was experiencing this anyway to a certain extent, but this has almost highlighted it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've experienced that too, and I don't know how. People say, how did you run a business and write all those books with a small child on your own? And I don't know. I look back and I actually do not know how I did it, Debs. I really, how? Right now I don't do anything hardly. So how did I, and my life is full. I don't know what I did. I really don't, and I'm sure, something happened. Aliens came down and did it for me, or time bent, or something like that, yeah.
But then, does time truly exist?
Well, if you look at a watch, that pretends it does.
Yeah. I haven't got a watch anymore.
No, I can't wear watches. I don't know if you know this about me, but I'm like, my energy is so strong that I break watches.
That's fascinating. Has that energy come about because of your lifestyle and your beliefs? And and the whole cleansing experience that you've had over the years?
I think I've always had quite an interesting type of energy, where even when I wasn't really fully connected to source like I feel I am now, there was some weird magnetic pull inside me that was a little bit odd, and I don't quite understand it. I mean, I can't bend spoons. And I've hung out with Uri Geller while he spent spoons. I'm like, I can't do that. But there's definitely a weird, I don't even know what it is. I don't know. I mean, we're made of frequencies, and there is a strange, weird frequency around me for sure. And I don't know what it is.
That's really interesting. So tell me, because you're known originally, and this was how I originally met you, for the blog that you wrote. What was it like actually blogging about your whole experience? Because that's to take you back, I don't know how many years you were blogging for, but you had, Shazzie basically.com was a blog effectively, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, the blog was the biggest part on it. Yeah, okay, so before the word blog existed, in 2000, before anyone was doing blogging or online journals, then I started one. Because originally I was a designer and I had done websites and stuff like that. So, and this is a long, long time ago. So I started this website and I put the blog on there, which was called a journal at the time because the word blog wasn't in use. It apparently did exist. So it's like one of the world's first ever blogs, which is quite exciting. And then the reason I did it was because I wanted to put my raw food journey on there, not to show off or not to say what anyone else could do, but so I didn't fail, because I knew I wasn't going to fail in public.
Interesting.
So I was writing what I was eating and how I was feeling, and how my relationships were falling apart and how everything was just completely coming apart at the seams, actually, as I was going through this marvellous transformation. And it just got this cult following, like millions of people reading it. And I was like, why are people reading about this? But then I realised that because there was nothing else. You know, now there's loads of websites. You won't get your firstname.com these days, not unless you're called Shabla or something like that. You know, you'll get like Shazzie.com. Well, you wouldn't want it, but you know what I mean. And so the point is, it was all very new, and there were lots of people ready to soak up information because we were on the precipice of a huge revolution. With the internet, and nobody knew how big it would be. I kind of did. I had like that little inkling, and I'd worked on the internet since it was first sort of, you know, in the public. But not many people really did, but they were hungry. They were really hungry for information, and books weren't cutting it anymore because as soon as the book's printed, it's out of date. And, you know, so suddenly people are reading this thing and it's changing my life because I'm getting all this feedback. And it's changing their lives because they know what to do. Not that I would have expected anyone to copy me because I didn't know what I was doing myself. And yeah, it just launched everything. That you know, ridiculous piece of inspiration to just start blathering on about myself just changed it. Well, it created revolutions, which is amazing.
So do you think it came along at the right time in regards to the fact that there was all this kind of raw change going on, and those types of foods, that type of diet and energy was starting to come to the fore in health food?
It was all divine timing. It was all divine timing. You know, at the same time, like David Wolf was doing amazing things in America, and, you know, people were bored of going on diet after diet after diet and getting nowhere and feeling really bad and feeling hungry and fat. And, you know, it was like suddenly there was another option, which seemed completely radical, but of course it was the most sensible thing on the planet because that's what all other animals do apart from scavenging animals and pets. And, you know, of course it was just like people saw it and they went, well, that makes sense. And then, you know, so there's a lot of information being put out through other media at the time, and this was one of them. And it was just, you know, who got to see what first. But yeah, there were huge changes made as a result of all of it, all what was happening then, you know. But even now it's changing. It's so mainstream now, you can just go anywhere and tell them that you're raw and they know what you mean. Like, you know, people didn't understand it. It was like being a vegan in the 80s. No one understood it. But now they do. It's fantastic.
I remember years and years ago, this was a long, long time ago, not being able to get hold of Linda McCartney veggie burgers and things like that when I was eating like that. And I remember thinking, gosh, this is a nightmare. And then when I evolved into kind of vegan foods, it was like all over again. And then raw food, it was like all over again for so long.
All over again. Yeah. And it'll be the same when we're breatharians. We'll be going, oh, I can't get any decent air anywhere. We'll always be ahead of the curve.
That is just so true. I love the evolving factor of it, though, in many respects. Like, just let me be clear. Can you kind of explain what being totally raw is like for my audience? And because some of them will not have a clue about that and what it kind of means.
Well, I think first of all we need to really say that there's a lot of different raw food diets around. And within the types of raw food diets that you get, no one person eats the same as everyone else. In the same way that people who eat an omnivorous cooked diet don't, you know. Just because someone eats that diet doesn't mean they're always going to have egg and chips on a Monday, the same as everybody else. It's just, you know, we all have our own preferences. So within what we feel and within our preferences, generally the food is very high in greens. I like a lot of sprouted foods, so alfalfa, broccoli, radish, and stuff like that. Not which are the seeds. I don't like the pulses so much; they're a bit hard to digest and taste a bit weird. And then obviously fruit, either non-sweet or semi-sweet or sweet fruit. And then things like the fatty stuff like avocados, durians, coconuts and stuff like that, nuts and seeds. So within those realms, those are kind of like the big three. But then there's all the superfoods such as raw chocolate, maca, acai, hemp seeds, lucuma, purple corn, all those things, which are kind of, I call them superfoods because they're kind of energetically gifted, so they have things that can open certain parts of you, quite amazingly. So like purple corn extract is just brilliant for your intuition. For example, maca is amazing for your sex drive and your stamina and your kind of base chakra stuff. Raw chocolate is amazing for your heart. It's full of magnesium. It can really open your heart, and it has PEA in it, which is phenylethylamine, and it makes you feel love. And, so these foods are really gifted foods, and you only need a small amount of them every day or every few days, and you'll feel the benefit of them. And then there's the food that comes from the sea, or lakes, such as algae, spirulina, chlorella, seaweeds, which have their own special things, but they're the grounding foods. They're the foods that make you feel really at one with this planet. They're full of salt, and they make you stop you looking wishy-washy. So they plump you out, and they make you feel amazing. Foods, they're the ones that they plump you out, and they make you look juicy. So those are really the basics of the foods. And so a raw food diet could look something like, for today, for example, I've made almond milk. So I soaked some almonds and I blended them with water and strained them. And I've made like 3 litres of almond milk out of about 100 grams of almonds. So it's like really good nutrition. Something really nice to drink throughout the day, and also it doesn't cost that much because you couldn't make 3 litres of something else that easily. You could easily just make green juice every day. You could add salad to your normal food. You could add, like if you've got a casserole or something, stick bean sprouts, like alfalfa sprouts or something like that on top. Sprinkle sea greens or some algae on top, which actually is really nice. It sounds disgusting, but it's got this really lovely sort of mellow, cheesy flavour. Goes really good with savoury food. Or you can make a soup and you can blend in something like chia seeds. Chia is amazing. It's got loads more calcium than milk, loads more omega-3 and salmon. It's a fantastic food, and you only need about a teaspoon if you're making a soup. Just blend it in afterwards and you're done. So, and then, there's raw chocolates that you can make. There's smoothies, there's salads, there's cakes, cookies, burgers, sausages, anything you think you can make cooked, you can make it raw if you want to be bothered. I mean, I'm like a raw food chef, and I love making food. It's like the thing that makes me feel completely in love with the world. Mm-hmm. So I make lots of food, and I made some jam tarts the other day, which I have to say were absolutely amazing. But not everybody wants to faff around like that, and if you don't want to faff around, just do basics, do your soups, smoothies and salads, and that's enough.
So fundamentally, being raw means that you're not heating the food up.
Oh yeah, I missed that bit out, didn't I?
Just thought I'd clarify that for everybody.
Yeah, so what we have, instead of a cooker, we sometimes use a dehydrator, and you can make things like stir fries and fried mushrooms and quiches and pastries and breads and crackers and all sorts of things in a dehydrator. It runs on quite a low temperature, below 46 degrees normally, centigrade Celsius, and that extracts the water and makes it sort of harder and crispier, so it gives you the feeling of cooked food, but without it losing all its vital energy. And the point is, if you lose your vital energy in the food, you'll lose it in yourself, and that's not what we want.
No. Do you feel that you experience that vital energy from the food?
Oh, so much. It's like, if I can't get the food I want, and if I eat something cooked, say if I'm out or something, it fills the hole. But then I start going down, I start going a bit, Whereas when I eat my own food, or I can get raw food when I'm out, I just feel completely connected. And that's the point to me. there's a lot of spiritual gurus that say it doesn't matter what you eat because you can transmute everything. But to be honest, they don't look like they're transmuting everything. And I think that this is our temple. This is our vessel for being on this planet. To deny giving this beautiful body thing the best food that we can lay our hands on, which invariably means raw, organic, ripe, wild, whatever, then we're denying the biggest pleasure going. And that biggest pleasure going is the feeling of a body that really fully works. And this is why I think I'm lucky, because I had a body that didn't really work when I was younger. I felt really bad in my body. I have the contrast, and so I can understand it. And some people don't have that, and they just take it for granted until they start getting old, and it creeps upon them so slowly, that they don't realise that once they were sprightly. Whereas for me, I was looking at everyone else going, why do you look so happy, and why does your body work so well, and why don't you keep getting ill? So, I just really feel that it's such an important thing to look after our bodies. And I've gone completely off subject. I'm really sorry to all your listeners.
You haven't at all. It was all about being connected, and you're absolutely right. Do you eat a lot of wild foods and forage foods to actually aid that energy increase?
Yeah, and do you know what? When you're eating wild and forage foods, you only need a small amount. You can be out all day and you have like 4 leaves or something like that in a berry.
Yeah.
Which is quite lucky, really, because there's not that much wild food around where we are sometimes. But, even the food I grow, anything that I grow, as soon as I eat it, that's it, I'm full. Just like small amounts out of the garden. Because it's got all its vibrancy and energy in it still, there is a theory that we're not even really supposed to eat, there's like that whole children of the sun thing, and I don't know, who knows what's right. We've got stomachs and digestive system, but there are also breatharians, and they seem to look alright. Jasmine looks so connected to the divine these days, it's unreal. But I don't know her personally, and I don't know the whole situation, but I do know that even for myself, the less I eat, the better I feel. For sure. Even if it's not wild food, even if it's not forage food, just getting less food, but better quality food in is the way to go, for sure.
I'm having that experience, and I've had that experience when I've been out doing, kind of foraging. I've been out for the whole day and spent my whole day eating wild foods. The amount I eat it's like a handful, and the energy I feel is is amazing, and the connection I get is totally different. It's almost like I become heightened in my awareness.
Yeah, colours change, don't they? Everything becomes really bright, and your third eye starts spinning. Do you get that?
I can't say I've gone that far yet. Yeah, I'll just write that down to actually experience that later. But it's interesting when you're saying about the whole experience of the body working, because I really feel that most people don't realise that they're not working at their optimal, and the dullness and the heaviness that they experience on a daily basis, they think is normal, whereas the foods that we eat tend to give us a real lightness and connectedness on a moment-by-moment basis.
You just, you just feel like you're full of it. I mean, so much so that actually I am a bit full of it sometimes, and I have to really calm myself down. Do you know what I mean? And you do too. It's like, you just feel like, wow, I might just take off any minute. It's so good. It's so amazing. Everything's so fantastic. And I just know that if everybody gave it a try, even just eating 50% raw food with every meal, then they would feel somewhere towards what we're feeling, and they would love everything in their lives so much more. It takes you out of depression. The depression that I had was so awful. I mean, it's like another life now, and I only remember it so well because I wrote it down. But living with depression and wanting to not be here, wanting to actually end your existence is so horrific, and raw food can remove that. It can remove all all kinds of illnesses and destructive thought and all the rest of it. But I think the other thing that goes hand in hand with it is, as soon as you do that, you open yourself up to a whole new kind of gamut of information, of stuff around you that you were just too blind to see before. So it's a big eye-opener too.
And it's interesting about that whole opening up, because it is on a variety of levels, because it works at such a cellular level, the change.
Yeah, exactly. You know, if we are what we eat, and then we eat something that makes us think good thoughts, then we are what we think. And then we do great things because we've got good thoughts, so then we are what we do. You know, it carries on.
And a whole full circle. So why do you think some people experience amazing change, but then others don't and seem to become iller on it?
I do believe that there is a type of raw food diet that just doesn't suit people. And I also think that there's a lot of dogma around raw foodism. And if you see some of the dogma, you'll see that some people will say, be raw no matter what, and ride those symptoms out. And, you know, if the symptoms are being emaciated and losing your hair, that's not detox, that's deficiency. And one of my big things that I guess I've contributed most in the raw food community is actually getting down to the nitty-gritty of what we really need nutritionally, which nobody's done in such detail as me. And the reason I did it was because when I had my daughter, I wanted her to eat raw food, but I'd seen a lot of deficient raw food children, and I didn't, call me weird, but didn't want my child to be deficient and have a growth stunted and have no teeth, which I had seen quite a lot of, and I mean quite a lot, hundreds. So I started to research loads and loads and loads of stuff, and the things that kind of made the most sense out of everything was Weston Price's research. And, you know, he's talked a lot in his book Nutritional and Physical Degeneration about lacking the fat-soluble vitamins. And basically, if you don't have the fat-soluble vitamins inside you, you will not build bone and teeth, and you will not grow properly. So vitamin A, D and K2. Now, no raw foodists were talking about this. So when I stumbled upon this, I was like, well, this is why all these kids are suffering. This is why people are not feeling well. They're not, you know, doesn't matter how much you juice and how many minerals you get inside you. If you haven't got the fat-soluble vitamins in your body, you can't absorb them. So this is why people are getting ill. They're not eating enough nutrient-dense food. And if you are going to be a vegan on a raw food diet, you have to supplement if you're going to do it long term. And this comes from someone who's been a vegan for 25 years or something. I've not been doing this 2 seconds, and I'm not spouting someone else's information. I've researched this stuff for 12 years. And I've been a vegan for 25 years. So, you know, believe me, if you are a vegan, you have to supplement. And if you're a raw vegan, you have to supplement even more. And the reason that is because some vegan foods are, fortified. So, you know, vegan margarines or cereals or, Marmite, for example, are all fortified with a lot of vitamins. And if you're raw, you don't get any fortification. So your deficiencies will show up quicker. And so then if anyone actually says, well, so maybe you shouldn't be raw then, if you're going to get deficiencies and you have to supplement because that's not natural. My honest answer to that is no, actually we should be raw, but I don't believe veganism is natural. I really don't. And the reason I'm a vegan is purely for my own ethics. If I could be an ethical raw vegan and supplement, I would feel better than being a vegetarian or a meat-eating raw foodist, personally. But, you know, quite a few people eat meat and raw milk and raw eggs and stuff on a raw food diet. And if you're eating offal and eggs, then you probably don't need to supplement.
It's interesting your point about veganism not being a natural diet, because I completely agree with you. And when I see vegan clients, they at times they don't want to supplement. They feel they can do everything through the diet, and often it can be very difficult me convincing them to take supplementation.
Yeah, it's that utopian view, which is very nice, but it doesn't work. There is no culture in this world that's vegan successfully. None. It's a made-up word. It was only made up in the 40s. You know, it's fine, experiment on yourself, but don't put it on your children. And certainly, if you're experimenting on yourself as a woman, and then you want children later down the line, realise that they might be deficient as a result of your deficiencies. Clearly, the better way to go is to just take a few supplements. If you don't want to eat animal products, which none of us vegans do, then take a few supplements. It's not that difficult.
Now, Evies Kitchen did actually raise quite a storm across some of the forums, didn't it?
Yes.
Because of your opinion about that. But you've stuck to your guns on it, which I have a lot of admiration about.
Yeah, so that was my book that I wrote, named after my daughter Evie. And I researched that particular book for 4 years before it came out. And, my Western Price research is in there. And a lot of other stuff. What I did was I wrote a table of the nutrients that kids will need at certain times of their lives and how to get them on a raw vegan diet or a raw vegetarian diet. And if you want to be a vegan or a vegetarian, take these supplements, etc. And yeah, some people... Actually, do you know what? I know it did cause a storm, but there's usually only one or two people actually saying this stuff. I've had, I don't know how many, several hundred, maybe thousands, not sure now, emails, letters, Facebook messages saying, thank God you wrote that book. Yeah. Thank God you wrote that book. My child was deficient and I didn't know what was wrong and now I've made changes. But sadly also I still get, and I had one the other day, a woman who said, she wrote to me on Facebook, private message, my child's really deficient, not growing, bad teeth, etc. What do I do? And I said, you need to get Evies Kitchen. She said, I've got it. I said, well, you need to apply the principles in Evies Kitchen. She said, well, but my boyfriend said, if I just gave the child green smoothies, it would be okay. And I was so upset. And I didn't need to get upset, that wouldn't have changed it. But I was upset because I thought, God, even when you've got the information out there, and even when people have got the book, there's still someone saying, no, that's wrong. And it's the father of the child. I mean, I know we've got these principles and these ideologies, but come on, there is basic nutrition here. Really basic nutrition, and it states that children cannot grow properly if they don't have the right vitamins and minerals and nutrition to grow. And one of the big things that I've said, and I'll say it again, is that if you choose to do that to your child, knowing, like there's been a pretty authoritative book now written about this, and you still choose to ignore that information, even though you've read it, then what you're doing is child abuse. And that to me is absolutely not acceptable.
I agree. And I think I like your passion about it, to be honest, Shaz.
There was some passion in that, wasn't there?
There was a lot of passion in that. And people, though, even wider than the vegan community, if they're not feeding their children a proper natural diet which is balanced across all the food areas, effectively they're creating deficiency and problems for their child in the long run.
Yeah, so, the suck diet, the standard UK diet, it's the same message, but I'm not the messenger for that niche.
No.
But it is the same. It's vitamin D deficiency is causing rickets at quite an alarming rate now with kids. Why vitamin D deficiency? Because we've got no sun, because people are keeping their children in from the sun because they've been lied to about the dangers of the sun. Yeah. All that, but there are good people, great nutritionists and what people working in those fields getting different information out. And that's not my niche, but yeah, it's absolutely right. Anyone that's misfeeding their children. And even when I say about misfeeding, I'm talking about not even food, sometimes energetically not disconnecting them from the planet is misfeeding them. Not loving them enough is misfeeding them. Not giving them the right education is misfeeding them. But that's a completely different subject. And again, I'm not the authority on those.
You're a passionate parent, though.
Just a ranting mother, yes.
Do you stand at the school gate doing it?
Well, we don't have a school gate because she goes to a hippie school, obviously. And they're all the same.
Nice. So tell me how being raw has changed your whole perspective on the world and how you live it.
Yeah, well, the biggest perspective is coming out from being extremely depressed. And my perspective on the world was something like this. I would go to work, do a little bit of work, have some coffee, go into the toilets, cry, my spirit saying I shouldn't be here. Come out of the toilet after drying my eyes, have another coffee, lie on the sofa, go to sleep, go back to my desk and talk to people, do some work, which I was very good at, so that was where I had the time to sleep and cry, and then go home, get upset that I killed a spider accidentally while I was hanging the washing out, and then watch the TV all night. So that's what my life was like. It wasn't always like that, but it was frequently like that. And the major feeling was depression and not wanting to be here, wanting to be sucked away. I never wanted children because I thought the world was so terrible that why would you bring a child up in a world like this? And I remember my mum saying, but it's people like you that have got to have children because they're the ones that will have the resourcefulness to change things. None of that, well, someone else can do it. I'm not doing it. I'm not bringing a child up. What if I end up having a child that ends up eating meat? Then I've killed an animal. It was so awful. Like my brain was just in such a state. And then, very quickly after going raw, I just felt the lightness and I felt like I was light. For the first time in my life, the heaviness disappeared, and it has been a real struggle since then in some ways because that's what actually started to really open me up. I was already searching for stuff. I've been meditating since I was 16. I was already in that thing, but there were blockages that I couldn't get past, and I think the raw food allowed the blockages to dissolve, and then I could do my real deep work, which has involved a lot of shamanic work and an awful lot of deep transformational work as well. So the raw food is like probably one of the legs that's holding me up, but it's not the only one.
Yeah, so effectively you're saying it's been part of a catalyst more than anything that's led you off into these other areas.
Yeah, it was the catalyst because it just stopped me seeing the world as a big awful black cloud.
And I don't know if people realise that that's what it can truly do for you.
No, but this is what I'm saying. Like, if people just give it a chance just to do like 50% raw food with every meal, because at that point your body isn't producing white blood cells in a alerted response, thinking it's being attacked by a virus or something. So that actually means just a banana on your muesli. Do you know what I mean? A salad with your lunch, sprouts with your evening meal. It's that easy, and snacking on fruit and nuts and things like that, and celery and cucumber. Even if you're just eating 50% raw, some of the things will happen like that. You will change enough to know that it's worth pursuing a little bit more of. And the miraculous stories I've heard over time, people curing themselves from every disease under the sun with raw food, and every mental illness with raw food, and every weight problem with raw food, that it isn't a lie. I wouldn't have bought into it so strongly and for so long if it didn't actually work. And whenever I've tried any other thing, like even if I have too much dehydrated food, I start to feel a bit slow and sluggish, and I'm like, okay, just get back on the juicy raw food. Get back on the juicy raw food. Always makes me feel amazing, and it will for everyone. Yeah.
And you're making a point there about integrating it slowly and not this big kind of big bang approach, so to speak.
Well, the thing is, it isn't for everyone to do all the time. And it's also, it can take quite a lot of mental resources to deal with initially, because it's a completely different way of eating. And also the emotions that come out are strong, so it is best to start slowly. It's really best to start slowly, and starting by just adding raw food into every single meal is the best way. because you will feel the changes and it won't be too radical and it's sustainable.
And that's the thing, isn't it? It's about introducing things into your life that actually you enjoy enough that you can sustain them, and then they sustain you.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, if you're at a restaurant, you get, instead of a side of chips, you get a side of salad and some olives with your main course. I mean, that's not difficult.
No.
Is it?
Not really, no.
Oh, excuse me, I've got to go and eat olives. What a shame.
Now, just before this, we were talking about the fact that because of your energies and things like this, people's lives change when they come into contact with you. Just explain that a little bit more.
It's just, I hadn't noticed it, but my shaman, like everyone should have a shaman, my shaman mentioned it a while ago, and he was just talking to somebody else about it. He said, oh, you know, whenever anybody spends any time with Shazzie, everything changes for them. And I'm like, whoa. And so I started to look and think about it, and I'm like, God, actually it really has. Over time, everyone I know goes through this huge transformation when they spend time with me. And I don't know what it is, but it might be something to do with the same reason that watches stop on me. I don't know. It's like, it's a pull. It's like a big magnetic, energetic thing that causes people to get close to me and then really just spin off in their thing and do their thing. And it happens with men and women. It's not just like a, you know, it's not a relationship thing. It's just, it seems to be a really normal thing. And it's just like something speeds up for them, you know. So I don't know, maybe I'll wind them up. We can do.
But at the same time, you know, you're inspiring as an individual because you've achieved so much.
Well, yeah, I guess, but I don't see that. I mean, I just see that I'm pretty much a housewife. You know, I don't do a lot now. I just sit around, make cups of tea and make chocolate and hang out with my daughter and my friends. So I don't see that. You know, it's not that kind of thing that, like, people hang out with me because I'm like a Z-lister. It's not that.
That's so funny.
It's something else. There's an energetic thing, you know. I mean, I've had like huge stuff happen in my life around people, huge, and I don't know what it is. Maybe one of your amazing guests understands these things. But I provoke strong reaction in people either way too, which is interesting.
Yes, that's fascinating. And I think maybe for you it's more because it has evolved. It's not felt so big to you, whereas I see it from the outside because I've known you through this whole kind of period of time. And for me, it has been inspiring watching you actually, you know, achieve what you've achieved.
Has it? Because that's really interesting, because I just think you've held down a job and everything. I couldn't do that. I'm so unemployable, it's ridiculous. I mean, I think you are now.
Yeah. I was going to say, I got there myself. And I'm hoping to remain unemployable.
Can you imagine what a waste of a life that'd be if you go employed again? But, you know, it's that thing of, I used to think, God, how could she actually do that? Every day?
Yeah.
Whereas I don't know, I've had 12 years of doing what I want. Really?
Yeah. But in that respect, though, doesn't it mean that, you know, the whole, you have your whole creative energy, though, don't you then? And then basically you put it towards the next thing that you want to actually achieve. And
yeah.
You do tend to then drive it forward because you do have that passionate energy behind it.
I think that's the thing, and one of the courses I've written, one of my online courses called Divinity in a Box, and the reason that I wrote that course was specifically to help people go through the same momentum that I go through, to get to a point where they would know what their dharma is, what their life calling is. And I find that that's like a really helpful thing for people to know, because otherwise they can get stuck. They can really get stuck in the security of a job that pays them a wage, and in that fake world, which we all know is really fake, but it feels so real when you've got a paycheck at the end of every month. It's one of those transformational things. I'm all about the transformation, as you know, and I would love everybody to transform into the butterfly that they're destined to be, rather than to keep caterpillaring around on this planet, not knowing when anything's going to happen, and putting it all into just saying, oh well, I'll just wait until an opportunity comes along. I'd really like people to be more proactive, and that was why I wrote that course. And yes, I am extremely proactive and I'm extremely creative, and but mostly it's because I'm in touch with my divine job, which is to be a messenger.
So now, Detox Your World has just been released in America.
Yeah.
So how's it going?
Oh, I don't know. It's had a few reviews. One of them said that because they designed the cover. So I got my friend. So Detox Your World is my book, right? That's been out for 10 years in the UK. So it's being picked up by an American publisher, which is brilliant. So I rewrote it for the American market with all American measurements and words, and a whole new chapter in there. So I got my friend, who's a photographer, to do the front cover, to do some pictures for it. And she did loads of really nice pictures, and there's one that was a little bit not very good, but you always put one that's not very good in, so that they choose the one you want. That's how you do it when you send people selections of things. Little tip there. But they chose that one. So I'm holding this champagne glass full of chlorella juice, which was just some chlorella powder mixed up with water because I couldn't bother to make the green juice. And my fingers look like a bunch of bananas. And so, yeah, they designed it with this particular one, and I was like, oh God. But it kind of looks okay. I'm looking out, which is all right. And anyway, so one of the reviews came back in a magazine, and it said, you have to get past the 1970s pink Panther curvy model on the front. That's me.
Oh my God.
So, yeah, holding a cocktail glass. So the reviews, apart from that, have been lovely.
We've got to have a pink Panther model party now. That'd be such a good idea. A launch party for it.
Yeah, little Pink Panther launch party. I think that's what we need. I thought that was just so funny. What surreal stuff these people come up with. But my hopes for that book are really high, because it's going to be on the bookshelves in America and stuff. And people in America are suffering, really suffering with so much stuff. They've had way too much for too long, and it's too much of the bad stuff, and they haven't got now really a huge chance of changing it unless they all start becoming proactive. Because the huge biotech companies have pretty much taken over America, and the pharmaceutical companies have got it all stitched up as well, and it's nasty. It's really nasty what's going on out there. And there's a small pocket of people in certain areas where things are different, but mostly in mainstream America it's like that. So what I would really love to see is that people just, get engaged by the Pink Panther-esque model on the front and pick the book up and realise that it's worth reading and do something, even one thing in there. It's 400 and something pages. It's huge. It's 100,000 words. See, I don't know how I did that one. It's all I remember doing. That was when I lived in Spain when I wrote the original. I just remember sunbathing naked on the beach every day. I can't remember writing.
Because I know that this book's actually quite big. And that really highlights how much the need to change is actually, in regards to detoxing your life of all the negative energies and influences, because in effect it covers a variety of areas, doesn't it? From food all the way through to chemicals, towards spiritual side of life.
Yeah, and I think with that book is that you can pick it up anywhere, turn to any page and make a change. And that's what I like about it. It's just, it's a compendium of tricks and tips. So, what plants you can use to get better air quality in your house, which you can change immediately. You can do that immediately. If you can't buy all organic clothes, what's the best thing to do? Well, obviously, buy organic bedding, because how often you're in your bed? Well, yeah, I'm in my bed an awful lot more than most people, very slovenly. But, at least get organic bedding. Make the change there. There are testimonials from people who have changed their diets and detoxed their worlds, and they will. If you don't cry, you're not human when you read those. They're amazing. There is so much stuff in there, and the tips and hints and tricks throughout. It's just absolutely one page is worth it. Do you know what I mean? One page is worth the price of that book. I love it. It's my signature book, isn't it? It's like my biggest, that and Evies Kitchen and Naked Chocolate, probably. So that's 3. My favourites.
So since we're on Naked Chocolate, which you wrote with David Wolf, didn't you? Do you want to just talk a little bit about that?
Naked Chocolate. Well, that was a revolution. We just, me and David were in Maui, and these guys called the Coconut Brothers kept making smoothies for us and putting in some chocolate beans that were raw. And we would go, wow, these are nice. And then one day the guys goes, have you ever just eaten one on its own? And we looked and we're like, you can't just eat a raw chocolate bean. That's weird. And then we looked at each other, and it was like this golden moment, It just felt like something really special was about to happen. And so he put his on his hand with some honey, and I put just mine on my hand, and then I put mine on my hand and without the honey, being a dogmatic vegan, and then we ate it. And honestly, it was like the gods just actually came straight into us and gave us our job to do. It was like the cacao gods just came straight into us and gave us a job to do. And we knew what it was. That job was to get the message of raw chocolate to the world. So, it was immediate. It was an absolutely immediate thing. Then a few weeks later, we were in Amsterdam, and we'd gone and cleaned out my friend Sky's raw chocolate stash. He had a few, a couple of pounds of raw chocolate in his shop in Glastonbury. We'd cleaned them out of it, and we were just eating chocolate, maca, and algae, and that was it for days. All these, just out of our hands like horses. And we were in Amsterdam, and we were like, what are we going to do? And we went to a bookshop, and we saw Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And we were like, oh, that's our Bible. Because, creative people don't do normal things, do they? Just like, that's our Bible. And we were wandering around a park, and we went, let's write a book. And I said to David, what should we call it? He goes, raw chocolate. Because, obviously he's American. And I went, no, let's call it Naked Chocolate. And so Naked Chocolate was conceived in Amsterdam. And so then we just wrote it, separately, because he's over the other side of the pond. We met just once. That was when we went to the Irrigator's house, and I was pregnant by then. It was that was a crazy time. We met once and just went to see how it was getting on. But because I was pregnant, I actually could hardly eat anything properly. So, I was making all these recipes and having to give them away to people. Couldn't really enjoy them so much. Just did enjoy the chocolate on its own, but not all the other stuff like the nuts and the sweet stuff. It's just too much. And then the book came out, and my God, just life changed. I mean, raw chocolate has changed the face of whole food shops. You can't go to a whole food shop now that doesn't sell raw chocolate unless it's one of those dusty old ones with an ampersand in the middle.
So what's so different about raw chocolate in particular?
Well, energetically.
Well, from the normal bar that you'd buy in a shop.
Right. Well, that's just, I don't even know what's in that stuff, but it looks like plastic. It probably can't be. I don't think it's quite legal to sell plastic, although hydrogenated vegetable oil is very similar in your body. The chocolate fruit is like this huge fruit that's as big as 2 hands, and you open it up, and it's rows of white fruit. And then inside is the seeds. And those are what the chocolate beans are. And what they look like, first of all, is rows of teeth. In the doctrine of signatures, this is like a principle where everything looks like what it's good for. So when you see these rows of beans, it looks like rows of teeth. And chocolate's really good for your teeth because of magnesium. So, and you don't hear many people say chocolate's good for your teeth.
No, not really.
You don't. So then what we do is we get those beans out, the guys in Peru, where we get ours from, we get those beans out and they're sun-dried, and then they're crushed, and they can be crushed, well, they can be left whole like that, or they can be crushed into nibs, or they can be finely, slowly ground. And when they're finely, slowly ground, the oil comes out, and the powder stays as like a big cake thing, and then that gets tumbled up so that it becomes a powder. And so you can have really raw chocolate powder, raw chocolate oil, or butter, raw cacao butter, and nibs, and then the whole beans with skins on and whole beans with skins off, and then the whole beans with part of the fruit on, which is the white fruit. So when you've got whole beans with the fruit on, it's amazing because you've got the nut and the fruit at the same time, and it's quite a divine experience eating those. So if you wanted to make a chocolate bar out of that, instead of doing weird things with hydrogenated vegetable fat and lecithin and sugar, it's really simple. You just use the cacao butter and the cacao powder, and if you wanted to add some coconut oil into that, that makes it really nice as well, but not quite so solid. And then, choose a sweetener such as either agave nectar or xylitol or stevia, something like that. Melt the oils, mix everything together and pour it into a silicone mould, stick it in the fridge, and an hour later you've got your own amazing raw chocolate. And that's the basics. But what has happened over, the kind of the chocolate revolution is that everyone's been sticking all the superfoods into the chocolate, because chocolate is a big carrier, it's a potentiator of other stuff. So what you get then is if you put any superfood in with your chocolate, it will be delivered into your cells better and faster and more effectively than if it's not in the chocolate. So chocolate's an amazing delivery system. So what we've got now is many, many, many raw chocolate bars with all kinds of superfoods in, and that is the best way, I think, to have your superfoods, because it tastes nice. It gives you a little bit of a ooh la la because of all the love chemicals, and it's got anandamide. It makes you produce anandamide, which is the bliss chemical as well. We could all do with a bit more love and bliss in our lives. And then it also gives you extra from the superfoods that you're having with it as well. So it's a fantastic food, really amazing food. And with normal chocolate, I don't know what you get. It's like a tiny half a bean in there, and then the rest of it's stuff, and I don't know what that stuff is. I won't touch it. I had to for my TV show, one of the episodes that hasn't been aired yet, I had to break apart a normal chocolate bar and say I wouldn't touch this with a barge pole, and there was me touching it. It felt all wrong. And then I just threw it down my sink, and it wouldn't dissolve when I put hot water on it. It's like, what happens to that stuff in your body?
Yeah, it doesn't start thinking about, does it?
No, I don't want to go near it. So that's the thing about chocolate, really. It's just a completely different animal. It tastes like chocolate, because it is chocolate, but it has a completely different effect on your body. And even, the levels of caffeine in chocolate are really low anyway, but in raw chocolate, they're not even effective. It doesn't affect you in the same way in raw chocolate. And I think that there are different qualities of raw chocolate around. You have to be careful, because some raw chocolate does have a bit of a weird effect on you, and that to me would imply that it's not actually technically raw.
Interesting. Now, you touched on superfoods earlier, and your company has been instrumental in bringing these foods into the UK, and these foods are very linked with the raw food movement. What makes certain foods super
Well, like I said before, it's that they have energetic qualities that other foods are lacking. So when you think about, like, most people think of foods as something to stop hunger. You know, so you're hungry, you eat a sandwich, you carry on with your day. I see foods as extremely functional. So what you're doing in your body when you decide to eat is that you're putting something in that it can do something with that's useful, rather than just curb the hunger. And superfoods go one step further than that, and they have an amazing capacity to make big shifts in your body even when you have small amounts of them. There's no technical term for superfoods, but I just see that they are the ones, like I said before, that they're the energetically gifted foods. So something like hemp seeds, for example. The brilliant thing about hemp seeds is that they have omega-3, 6 and 9 in the same amounts, the same ratio that humans need for their essential fatty acid intake. So that implies to me that that's a superfood. That's a perfect superfood. And I stick hemp seeds on everything, and anyone who's got children, you could just put hemp seeds into things and they won't really notice. Stick them in baked beans, or if you're making a casserole, put them in afterwards and stuff like that. They're just so nutrient dense. And the same with chia seeds, you know, like I said, they've got all that extra stuff going on, that more omega-3 than salmon. I mean, you know, a seed has more omega-3 than salmon. That's amazing. Has more calcium than broccoli and milk. That's amazing. So that's definitely a superfood. And then, you know, any single superfood that you mention, it will have a particular thing that it's amazing at. Like, maca is an adaptogen, so it causes your hormones to change when you take it. If you've got a deficiency in your body, or an overactive amount of hormonal stuff going on, then it will cause it to become more normalised. So it's not hormone itself, it's not like yam, but it's an adaptogen, so it causes your body to change what it's putting out to make it more normal. I mean, that's a superfood. But the thing is, we can't actually classify these foods in any way. The law doesn't recognise the term superfood, and it is starting to clamp down on it in some ways, because, as you know, unless a food is just a food, just culinary, then it's a medicine. And if it's a medicine, it has to go through crazy, mad tests. So it's not recognised, legally, but it's definitely something that is true.
Yeah, I've noticed that dietitians, or a few dietitians who are dismissing them as expensive and exotic.
Yes. Just take a look at those dietitians. That's all I have to say on that subject.
And now the supermarkets are calling things like broccoli and blueberries superfoods. Are we talking about the same thing?
I'm not.
No.
No. Broccoli is amazing. Because you can get kids to eat it. But no, it's not got anywhere near the power that the superfoods I'm talking about has. Nothing like. It's just things will get marketing hype around them all the time, and that's what's happened. But that's fine. I think most people that understand about superfoods, you can read a lot about superfoods in Naked Chocolate, for example. There's a whole chapter on foods in there, things that go well with chocolate and all the superfoods. And you'll get a really good deep understanding of what they really are. But no, superfoods are not turkey and peas and broccoli, no.
Just tell me about some of your favourite superfoods that you actually take.
Well, I would say that, like, if I took like a week and thought what I have, then I have quite a lot. But the things, my top three, raw chocolate, maca, and hemp seeds, for sure. But then I would say 10 other ones.
Which are?
My favourites, mesquite, which is not legal in the UK to sell as a food because it's only been eaten for 8,000 years outside of the EU, and that isn't enough proof that it's a safe food for the EU member states. So they've made that an illegal food. So you can buy it as cat litter and eat it as food in the comfort of your own home, and I never told you could do that. Mesquite is amazing. You can use it like a flour. It's got a biscuity taste, and it's really low on the glycemic index. So it's very good for diabetics. It's very sweet. It tastes really nice. And it's gluten-free, so you can use it in a gluten-free bread mix and biscuit mix as well. Not as the only gluten-free flour in there, but it can be used to kind of up the nutritional intake. It's like carob. It's sort of a native North American, South American plant. It's a legume. It's really high in protein. It's amazing food. So definitely mesquite. Chia. I've mentioned that a few times. Yeah. Purple corn, coconut oil, I would say is a superfood. And I have a lot of that. And, what else would I have every single week? I'm just mentally scanning my superfood cupboard. Algae, chlorella, blue manna, which is an extract. It's a proprietary extract of crystal manna made by Ancient Sun, and it's a high PEA extract. It's very dark blue. It's really good for your brain, bones, joints. But because it's algae and chocolate are the only foods that have got any decent amount of PEA in them. So when you excuse me, when you put chocolate and algae together, you get a real love hit. So I often make chocolate with blue manna because that's the PEA extract of the algae. That's really fantastic. What other things would I have? I would possibly have something like sea greens as well, which is another green thing, another sea thing. That's made from wild rack. So it doesn't have any iodine in it, so you can have as much as you like without worrying about your thyroid. But on the other score, if you're having low iodine food and you want more, then kelp. Kelp's an amazing superfood. You just buy the powder from health food shops and sprinkle it onto everything you eat that's savoury. Don't stick it in your sweets, it will be disgusting. Those are like the main ones really, but there are loads.
So tell me about your new app that's out, because you've got a number of apps out, and the new one's about being sexy, isn't it?
It's about being sexy. Yeah. Okay, so I've got, I don't know, 8 or 9 apps or 10 apps or something like that. Some ridiculous figure. Some of them are published by a publishing company, and they're meditations, so guided meditations that I've written and recorded, which it's a real step away from what I normally do, but I really love it. And then these other ones are information apps, and they're all like a book, they've all got about 30,000 words in each. So there's a lot of stuff in them. One's raw food, one's Reiki, parenting, weight loss, which is like, good natural weight loss, not that silly stuff. And then the new one is 97 ways. They're all 97. It's 97 ways to stay sexy. So what you do is you have a wheel that you spin, and then it takes you to a number, and you click on that number, and it takes you to a card. So you read the card, and then you click, and then you turn it over, and then there's more on the card. So what I'm going to do for you is read the one that I went to. So I went to Secret 57.
Go on then.
Love is sexy. Can you see the love? Can you feel it? When someone glows, you know they are cared for. So then you click over, and it says, when they talk with ease, and when they use gentle hands, you know they are loved. When they smile often and giggle while they walk, you can see they are held. We are all worthy of this glow, to be well loved. You know what you are worthy of. To love yourself without limits. Be yourself, never judge yourself, and most importantly, to extend your perfect and true self to the world. Say a prayer today to love yourself more. We need you. And they're all beautiful like that. And these are written by a lady called Shakaya, a Canadian lady, she's just such a goddess. She knows how to do all those beautiful words like that. I'm a bit northern in my approach. I'm a bit more harsh, but she's all la la la. It's lovely. So yeah, that just came out. Very exciting.
Fantastic. And I have a lot of love in my audience, I have to say, and they'll like that. I imagine the chat box is going to go mad now.
We do like a lot of love. And you know, it's interesting because love for others only can be properly expressed when we love ourselves first. And we're in a society where we don't really have that ability, or where it's suppressed in some way. And I'd really like to see that changed. You know, I think I've been on a huge journey this year. I've done like big Tantra transformation courses, and you know, not that I have any kind of weird oppressive thoughts around that at all, but it's really changed me. It's softened me and opened me up, and I am loving myself a lot more as a result of that course, and I would expect that, you know, everyone else will get the benefit of that now. And I think that's probably one of our biggest gifts, to love ourselves enough.
Yeah.
So we can give it, you know, we can be a full well and we can overflow into people rather than be an empty well and have our dirt dredged up and feel like we're being wrenched. We don't need that.
No.
No.
Not at all. So you have a new TV show coming out, and tell me all about it. Tell me what it's about.
It's called Raw Kitchen. Well, that's the working title. They might change it actually, but they just sent me the promo for it the other day, and it looks beautiful. I'm not allowed, actually. I have to cut that out because I'm not allowed to say that.
Okay.
Sorry.
Right.
God. It's called Raw Kitchen, and that's the working title. It might actually change, but I don't know. It's completely out of my hands, and I think, having been a bit of a control freak all of my life and then suddenly letting go, you know, because I self-published my books before. They're not self-published now, and I publish my own apps and stuff. And I found it really hard to have filmed this 6 months ago, and it's still not out. Actually, it's more than 6 months ago. It's ages ago. And it's still not out, but I know they're working on it. I know they're editing it and getting it all ready. And they keep playing the pilot, so it's on the Sky Active channel 281, and they keep playing the pilot over and over again, but never the rest of the series. We filmed 6 of them, like 6 whole half-hour episodes. So I don't know when they're going to come out, but actually what's in them is it's mostly in my kitchen, and I have guests come over, we make food together, and I make food on my own, and then I sit with my guests and I interview them, and we go out and about, and we do on location stuff. So it's like a real magazine show, and it's gorgeous, the stuff we've done, like the recipes we've done, but also, you know, we've touched on foraging, on wild food, on growing your own, on you know, what to look out for, and on people who have raw food lifestyles, and you know, their hints and tips, people that have cured themselves of diseases and how that's gone on. So it's actually a really informative program, as well as quite fun. And, you know, the recipes are kind of like the icing on the cake. They are exciting, but I think that the chatting to people is even more exciting.
So is this the first raw food TV show?
Apparently. Leslie Kenton and Susanna Kenton did one years ago. And I don't know what program it was on, whether it was a series or just a one-off. But it was in the 80s. And it was all, oh God, I don't know, they were just making a big muesli with really big clothes on and big hair. It's great. If you can find it on YouTube, it's quite a laugh. Bless them. Yeah, but I think, you know, in these days, it's definitely the first raw food series. Yeah. It's very exciting. In the world.
Your raw food is fantastic, I have to say. And I know that because I get to experience it on a regular basis. So.
I'm your feeder.
I did hope you weren't going to share that bit. So do you think this exposure for raw foods on television is really important at a time when our health freedoms are actually seriously being eroded away?
I think it's important in many ways. For me, it's important because obviously I'm a messenger, and I didn't want to write another book. I wanted different experiences, The TV, even though more people watch YouTube than the telly now, the TV is still highly influential. You're hitting a completely different genre of people. So yes, when someone can just flick over and see that they can make something mouth-wateringly delicious in seconds that doesn't need cooking, it might just be the thing that they are looking for. But I'm not attached to people waking up. You know, I don't go, wake up world, what's wrong with you all, or anything like that, because I just do believe that everything's really perfect as it is. But it can get even more perfect, and that's where I feel my job lies, in helping people, if they want, make their experience of this planet more perfect.
So you're talking about different experiences. What's next for you?
Yeah. Well, I don't know, I've just had like 2 weeks of lying down and doing nothing. It's been great. What's next is, because I've had like a really successful business life, and I think I've got a lot to offer there. One of my friends and I are going to make a course, an online course, and I'm not actually writing for it, but I'm going to be interviewed for it extensively and give away a lot of my trade secrets on how to have a really successful business based on your passion. Because, you know, that's what we all want, isn't it? That's what most people want. So I'm going to spend a bit of time doing that. But really, I'm kicking back, and I'm waiting for the TV show to come out, because I know that's going to change everything. And I'm getting well after having the tumour on my leg, which is the whole other story. So I'm spending time getting fit again, which is lovely. You know, after lying down for nearly a year. See, raw food doesn't cure everything. I had, just really briefly, I had a tumour on my leg. My beloved died 3 years beforehand, and I think it was a little gift from him. And I removed it myself with herbs, and I've been having lots of treatment, lots of non-medical treatment, and I'm sure I'm cured, but you know, when you've not been able to walk for quite a long time, or you know, I couldn't even stand up for months really. I could walk around a bit, but not stand, which was weird. Then, you know, your body just goes a bit south. So I'm just getting my body a bit north again. So that, you know, to me, my professional life is just ticks over. I don't give it much energy at all. It's just all about, I'm pursuing my personal life. I've had my brain completely rewired this year using this amazing technology from a company called Brainworks in London. And I've done a Tantra course, and I've got to the root of why I managed to create a tumour on my leg after such an emotional upheaval. And that's enough. That's enough.
Shazzie, this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deb. Lots of love to everyone. Bless you. Bless you.
Take care.
You too.